Well, there's all kinds of urban legends and myths out there, but when the evidence comes to light to prove one of them as being true, it is always intriguing and rather interesting if you ask me, especially when it comes to underground tunnels and caverns. And what's happened now is there's always been talk of these underground tunnels and caves in the colonial city of Puebla in Mexico, and everyone has passed it off as just urban legend. However, now they're saying it's no myth. They believe that these date back to as early as 1531, and that's when the city was founded. They're saying that these subterranean tunnels are believed to reach up to 10 kilometers in length, and they stretch all across the city. You can see here they're around 7 meters high, 3 meters wide, and they say that the public works accidentally discovered this when digging around and after removing tons of earth and mud. Now, back in the 17th century, this whole place was flooded with mud and water and just covered everything in this heavy layer of mud. And any holes leading down to this got filled in. So now they've discovered them, and they're saying they're thinking about spending the money to restore them, and that they are indeed between 300 and 500 years old. And there's different tunnels, there's different places they haven't even been down and through yet. But it's quite interesting here that they were there throughout all these battles and different times. And when you have networks like this, somebody went out of their way at that way back at this point in time to do all this work with what equipment? It wouldn't be with what we have today. And another thing I find rather interesting is that when it comes to sites like this, just like Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, they name these World Heritage Sites protected by the UN. Meaning even if it's underground, you can't even be on the property above it. And you can't even fly over the airspace above it. So, when it comes to labeling all these new treasures, so to speak, because you never know what they're going to find in these tunnels, and you never know what they're going to end up releasing to the public. But when you have a lot of people working on something and stumble across it, and the word gets out, and it's just out the bag, it's out the bag. And they still have a lot of exploring to do. But hey, there's a lot of this out there, is my point. Many people would be surprised to find out that in their city, there's ancient underground tunnels. I mean, look at the history of your city, for one. Study Los Angeles. You'll see that it's real. And it's rather intriguing because you never know where you could find something like this, where they lead to. And even like I said with Mammoth Cave, they only take the people down in there so far. They never take you down into the real neck that extends deep, deep down into the earth. And I do believe that you're going to find these systems and see the discovery of these systems more and more throughout time, because this was the safest place to be. And this is also the same type of stuff you've seen with the whole Mayan civilization that just what disappeared. People said, oh, they went underground. Underground where? Or just vanish off the face of the earth. Others say they migrated. But it's not just them. It's other civilizations that have shown that they will go underground in times of need and if they're being persecuted. And like I said, it's the safest place to be if you get down there and no one knows you're there and no one can get in. Especially back in the time in these days where they didn't have bunker busters. If you were down there and you could live and survive, you were safe. But once again, a lot of work to create this hundreds of years ago. I mean, this tunnel system goes all the way across the city. So look into the history of your own city. Just do it. You never know what you're going to find. I'll leave a link. It's been Dabu7. Much love.